ND filters. Think of them like sunglasses for your Osmo Pocket or for any camera, and they come in different shapes and sizes. This time around I've got PolarPro ND filters for the Osmo Pocket. This is the standard series. It's a 6-pack. It's got a polarizing filter, and we go from ND4 right up to ND64. Now ND4, ND64, ND8, ND16, what the hell is the difference? Like sunglasses, you can get more powerful sunglasses to block out more light, and the reason you want to block out more light coming into the sensor is so you can get that buttery smooth 24 frames per second 1/50 footage, which of course is the standard for cinema. That's what we're all used to seeing, because if you have too high a shutter speed without using an ND filter, then the footage is going to look like this. See, it's jittery, it's not smooth, there is zero motion blur, but using an ND filter, you can get your shutter speed down to 1/50, which is the magic number when you're shooting at 24 frames per second, and then you got the smooth cinema motion. How do you know which one of these to use? Should you use ND4 in a day like today? Should you use ND64, 32? What one do you use? The PolarPro app, which is a free download on the app stores, and that's what I've been using recently, that works like a dream. So, the way to start is like this. As we can see, I am completely blown out here. This is ISO 100, 24 frames per second, and it is the magical shutter speed, that cinema speed of 1/50. So to get this right, what we need to do is go into manual here. We need to get up to the shutter speed where we got a kind of a pretty good looking exposure. So I'm 116, 1/2500. That looks pretty good. So the next step that you need to do is open up your PolarPro app. Now I'm going to select our current shutter speed, which is 1/2500. Remember, this is giving us a good exposure without any ND filter. So here we go, 116, 12, 1/2500. So the app is now saying, hey, you got to use an ND64 filter, and that's going to allow us to get that magic 1/50 shutter speed. So let's find our ND64. Let's go with this one, which is indeed ND64. Going to give this a slight clean because of greasy fingerprints. Thanks, Trent. Now, because these are magnetized, they're just going to attach onto the Osmo like that. Now let's jump back around to our app here. Let's go back into the Mimo app, and we can see it's 1/2500, which everything is very dark, but that's because the ND filter is on. Let's jump back down here to our shutter speed for the magic cinema 1/50, and there we go. Epic exposure. And because we've got that shutter speed, we can now have that little bit of motion blur and that cinema footage, which looks like this. Would you use an ND64 in every single scenario? You might think, hey, this is the easy thing to do. It's bright, I'm just going to use an ND64. Absolutely not. It is the wrong thing to do, because it depends on the situation, it depends how much light is there, it depends basically on what you're shooting, because sometimes it might be an ND32, some other times it might be an ND4. It all depends on Mr. Sun, or Mrs. Sun, depending on what you, yeah, whatever. Anyway, let's go on to the next location, see can we get an ND32, and I'm also going to show you guys the polarizing filter, which helps hugely with glare and reflections. Let's go. Yeah, it would help if I kind of brought this.
In the next example, I'm putting on an ND32, but I want to show you guys how powerful the polarizing filter is, and polarizing filters help with glare and reflection. So ND32 is on here, and we've got a bit of glare, and we're kind of shooting into the sunlight, which is the disaster anyway. But let's get on the polarizing filter, which magnetically attaches. And as you can see, before and after.
Huge thanks to PolarPro for sending me these ND filters. These are the standard series. They're very solid. The build quality is top notch. They're kind of a hard metal. The glass is a premium grade, so you're not going to see any degradation on your footage whatsoever. And the magnets are really strong as well. And speaking of magnets, the big thing for me compared to some of the other ND filters that are out there is the case is magnetic, which means it's a breeze to open. No fiddling with plastic claps, no fiddling with kind of plastic clips or anything like that. It's really, really good. So if you want to shoot cinematic footage, then an ND filter is an absolute must if you want to get that 1/50 at 24 frames per second. End of. You gotta use it. The app is simple to use. We can use the other way if you want to feel a little bit more professional, but when you're in a run and gun scenario, and maybe for vloggers or anything that makes your life a little bit easier is a positive. My name is Vic. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next episode of the vlog, and until then, Don't stop fighting for yourself. I'm going to this. Yeah, see you later. I forget everything. Yeah, I'm this way, Osmo. I forget everything.